Hello. We hope you're enjoying your stay at Toshi's place.
To help you make the most of your time in Kamakura, we've prepared this sightseeing guide.
Today, we'll introduce you to Sugimoto-dera Temple.
Right, Sugimoto-dera. It's got quite a story.
It really does. We're going to unpack what makes this place so special, looking at, its history, the legends, what you'll actually see there.
Yeah, trying to get the real feel of the place beyond just the basics. It's stood for a long, long time.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. History. Sugimoto-dera has this claim, a pretty big one, of being the oldest temple in Kamakura. How far back are we actually talking?
We're talking way, way back. The founding is generally placed in the Nara period, early 8th century.
8th century, wow. That is seriously old for Kamakura. And the founder.
The monk Juki is credited with establishing it. He's a huge name in early Japanese Buddhism, pops up everywhere.
Right, I've heard of him. But wasn't it a joint effort, kind of?
Well, yeah, the story goes that the main hall itself came a bit later. Apparently, Empress Kumius had wished for it, and Fujiwara no Fusasaki actually had it built.
So you've got monks, empresses, powerful clans involved right from the start. It's layered.
Exactly. And it doesn't just stop there. Over the centuries, other really important figures connect to the temple. People like Jukaku Daishi, who you might know as Enin,
Oh, Enin, definitely.
and Ishin Suzu or Genshin. These connections really root the temple deep in Japanese religious history. It's not just old, it's like fundamentally linked to how Buddhism developed here.
And there's that pilgrimage connection, too, isn't there? It's #1 on a famous route.
That's a huge part of its identity. It's the very first temple on the Bando 33 canon pilgrimage.
The first one. Okay, so that gives it immense significance for pilgrims starting that journey.
Absolutely. Sets the whole tone. And you hear that echoed in the local nicknames like Kura Canon or Sugimoto Canon. People really associate this specific place with canon worship.
Which brings us neatly to Canon herself. Because the statues here seem to be, well, the heart of the temple, right? And there are some amazing stories.
Oh, definitely. This is where it gets really interesting. Inside the main hall, there are 3 statues of the 11-faced canon.
3 of them. And are these linked to those historical figures we mentioned?
They are. Tradition attributes them to Gyuki, Enin, and Genshin, respectively. It's like holding the temple's spiritual lineage right there in physical form.
Wow. And aren't some of them officially recognized, like nationally?
Yes, 2 of the 3 are designated as important cultural properties of Japan, so they have immense historical and artistic value, too.
Okay. 3 statues, 2 are cultural properties. What's unusual about how they're kept?
Well, the arrangement itself is quite unique. They're all enshrined together in the same hall. The term for it is Sansanduten.
Sansanduden, 3 revered figures in one hall.
Exactly. It's not the typical setup you see everywhere. It's thought to really emphasize that connection between canon worship here and the temple being the starting point for the pilgrimage. It's a visual symbol.
I read something about another statue, too, maybe by Unkei.
Yeah, there's mention of a subsidiary statue, possibly carved by Unkei, the master sculptor. Just adds another layer of incredible craftsmanship associated with the place.
Okay, so these statues are clearly incredibly important, but
Yeah.
you can't just walk in and see them anytime, can you? That's a crucial detail.
No, absolutely not. This is key for anyone planning a visit. These main statues are considered incredibly sacred, so they are not normally on public display.
Right, like hidden treasures. So
Yeah.
when can you see them?
Only on specific days, the 1st and the 18th of each month. These are traditional memorial days linked to canon.
The 1st and 18th. Got it. Is there a
Awesome.
specific time?
Yes, there's a Goma fire ritual usually held around 1:30 p.m. on those days, and after that they allow public viewing inside the main hall.
Okay, so plan carefully if seeing the statues is your goal. 1st or 18th, afternoon viewing after the ritual.
And there's one extra special day, August 10th.
What happens then?
It's the Shimen-Rokusen Nichi Taisai Festival. Get this. The belief is that visiting the temple on this one day gives you the same amount of merit or blessings as visiting for 46,000 days.
46,000 days. Seriously. That's over 120 years worth of blessings in one visit.
I know, right? It tells you everything about how deeply revered this place is, the kind of spiritual power people associate with it.
No kidding. Okay, beyond the statues themselves, the legends are just fantastic. The stories give the place so much character.
They really do. One of the most famous ones involves a big fire back in the late 12th century.
What happened?
The story goes that the 3 canon statues miraculously escaped the fire by themselves. They apparently took refuge under a huge ancient cedar tree on the grounds.
Wow. And that's where one of the nicknames comes from.
Exactly. Canon of the Cedar's Base, Sugimoto Canon. It comes directly from that legend of miraculous survival. Beautiful imagery, isn't it?
It really is. What about the dismounting cannon? That sounds intriguing.
Ah, yes. Apparently, for a time, anyone trying to ride past the Chardot on horseback would just fall off, mysteriously.
Just fall off. That must have been alarming.
You'd think so. The legend says this strange phenomenon only stopped after a later monk, Rankai Doryu, another important figure, covered the eyes of one of the canon statues with a piece of his robe.
And that led to another name.
Veiled canon.
Right.
So you have these overlapping stories, escaping fire, making riders fall, being veiled, all swirling around the canon statues and giving the temple these unique, evocative names. The legends are totally woven into its identity.
Okay, so we have the history, the sacred statues, the incredible legends. What about the physical place itself? What really stands out when you visit Sugimoto-dera today?
I think the image that most people immediately picture and what really strikes you are those moss-covered stone steps.
Ah, yes. The ones lined with all the white flags.
Yeah. Exactly, those white votive flags. They say it looks especially beautiful, almost magical, on a rainy day when the moss is all green and glistening. Very atmospheric.
You can just picture it. But hang on, there's a catch with those steps, isn't there? You can't actually climb them.
That's right. And it's super important for visitors to know, because they're so old and have been worn down by centuries of pilgrims' feet, access to those specific original steps is restricted now for preservation.
Makes total sense, so you view them from nearby.
Yeah, there's another path you used to go up, and you can see the old steps from there. It's a visual reminder of just how many people have come here over, well, centuries.
1,000 years of footsteps. Wow. Okay, what else? The main gate.
The Nichimen Gate. It's got that distinctive thatched roof. That structure is a bit younger, from the mid-18th century, the Edo period.
Thatch roofs are stunning, but they must be incredibly hard to maintain.
Oh, absolutely. It takes huge skill and, frankly, a lot of money. They even mentioned that things like climate change seem to be making the thatch wear out faster these days.
Really, climate change affecting ancient temple roofs.
Seems so. And it highlights the ongoing costs. They actually mentioned that donations are welcome for the upkeep, something like 3,000 yen for just one bundle of thatch as of recently. Puts it in perspective, the effort needed to keep these places going.
It really does. Gives you appreciation for the craftsmanship and the cost. And the main hall itself, the Kannon-do.
That was rebuilt earlier in the late 17th century. And it's also designated as an important cultural property, this time by Kanagawa Prefecture.
So you've got layers of history right there in the buildings. 8th century roots, 17th century hall, 18th century gate. It's like walking through time.
And look out for the cluster of stone pagodas, those 5-ringed ones called gorinto, usually in front of the main hall.
Right, the gorinto. They're not just religious symbols here, are they? They connect to battles.
Exactly. They're memorials for an Ashikaga clan warrior, Shiba Ayanaga, and his men. They died nearby in a battle back in the mid-14th century.
The battle right there.
Yeah, the Battle of Sugimoto Castle. The castle site was apparently on the hill just behind the temple. So these stones are essentially ancient war memorials right on the temple grounds. A powerful connection.
That is powerful. Linking the sacred space directly to conflict and loss from centuries ago.
And there's one more amazing detail about these specific gorinto. They actually fell over during the Great Kanto earthquake in 1923.
No way, the big one.
Yeah, and they were later put back together, so they've literally withstood medieval warfare and survived a major modern earthquake, needing reconstruction. They link the temple not just to the deep past, but to 20th century resilience, too.
Okay, so beyond the structures and the history, what about the feel of the place? The atmosphere, the nature?
It sounds like it's known for being a really quiet sanctuary, quite different from some of the busier, more famous spots in Kamakura. It feels more removed, more peaceful.
A place where spirituality and nature kind of merge together.
That's the impression. It seems like a spot for a more reflective visit. Less about rushing around, more about just soaking it in.
And the nature changes with the seasons, offering different kinds of beauty.
Definitely. You've got different things blooming throughout the year. Spring brings kanizakura, a type of cherry blossom, and camellias.
Summer.
Summer has things like iwatabako flowers, which are a bit unusual, alongside hydrangeas.
Autumn must be lovely with the leaves.
Of course. Peak colors for maples are apparently late November into mid-December, and ginkgo trees around late November, too. Plus, you get spider lilies earlier in autumn.
And winter isn't bare either.
No, you still have beauty with sasanqua camellias and early plum blossoms. It sounds like there's always something lovely to see in the gardens and grounds.
And back to that rainy day image.
Yeah, they really emphasize how the glistening moss on the steps and those white flags create this particularly tranquil, almost mystical feeling when it's wet. It reinforces that sense of a unique, slightly otherworldly atmosphere.
So putting it all together, the ancient founding, the famous monks, those hidden cannon statues, the wild legends, the restricted steps, the battle memorials that survived earthquakes, the careful upkeep, the quiet seasonal beauty. What's the big takeaway about Sugimoto-dera?
I think it's that it's so much more than just Kamakura's oldest temple. It's this incredible tapestry woven from deep history, profound spiritual meaning tied to pilgrimage, fascinating local legends, and a really serene natural setting. It kind of asks more of you than just a quick look.
It invites you to slow down, maybe, to feel the history around you, the stories in the air.
Exactly. It's clearly a place for dedicated pilgrims, absolutely for history lovers, but also just for anyone looking for a bit of peace and a connection to something, well, ancient and enduring in Kamakura. It requires a bit of quiet contemplation, maybe, rather than just ticking it off a list.
Yeah, different kind of engagement, respect for the age and the stories.
Which makes you think, doesn't it? How does all that deep history, so much of it hidden from immediate view, like the veiled statues, or the reason you can't walk on the steps, or the meaning behind those stone pagodas, how does all that still shape the actual feeling, the atmosphere you experience when you stand there today?
What does it really feel like standing on ground where people have been praying, telling stories, and living through history for, what, 1,300 years? That's something pretty amazing to consider when you visit.
What did you think?
We hope the rest of your stay at Toshi's place will be filled with wonderful memories.